Hi everybody, in this video we're going to be talking about 13.2.2, writing the equation of a line using slope-intercept form, which again is the form we were talking about in the last video about y equals mx plus b. Again, just a reminder that this form of an equation gives us useful information because the m right here is going to give us the slope, and the b right here is going to give us the y-intercept. So again, the y-intercept is where the graph of our line crosses the y-axis. So it's where it intercepts the y-axis. So it's going to be written as an ordered pair like 0b. So for situations that we're going to be given where we're going to be asked to take the information that's given to us and put it into slope-intercept form, the first situation, it's literally if they just give us the information. If given the slope and the y-intercept, simply just substitute the information into the formula. So we're going to substitute the information into the formula for m and b. So for example, it says, here's our example here. Write the equation of the line that has a slope of 6 and it contains the point 0, -7. So here you need to interpret that that's going to go in for your m. And then you would want to recognize that since this ordered pair starts with a 0, what this is giving you is your y-intercept. So it's in the form 0b. And then you would plug that information into y equals mx plus b. So the y is still going to be a y. We're going to plug the 6 over here in for the m. And then we're going to have this -7 get plugged in for the b. Now be careful because it's going to be different in the next problem. So I can't tell you how many students have tried to do this where it's like, let's say we were given the point 2, -7. And they're like, oh, I'm just going to take the y value and I'm going to plug it in for b. That doesn't work. It doesn't work like that unless this is a 0. This has to be a 0 for you to just be able to plug the y value in for your b. So be careful on that. Okay, so here's a second scenario. Maybe you are given the slope and a point on the line that's other than the y-intercept. So they give you a point on that line, but it's not the y-intercept. Well, then you are going to substitute the information into the formula for m, x, and y this time. Then we're going to solve for b. So then we're going to rewrite your formula with the numbers of m and b substituted back into our formula after we have solved for b. So here's our example. It says, write the equation of the line that is a slope of 3. So this is going to be our slope. And it passes through the point 5, -4. So this will be our x. And this is going to be our y. And so the piece of information that we're missing is b. So that should be your clue right there, find b. So again, we're plugging the information into y equals mx plus b. So this time they gave us a y, which is going to be -4. And then they gave us the slope of 3, and they gave us our x of 5. And I'm just going to write plus b because that's what we're looking for. So here we're going to subtract 15 because 3 times 5 is going to give us 15. I'm going to subtract 15 from here. And my b is going to equal -19. Okay, well, I'm not done yet. What's that last step? It says rewrite the formula with the numbers m and b substituted back into our formula. So when we substitute it back into our formula, the y and the x become a y and an x again. They don't stay as -4 and 5. So we're going to have y equals mx plus b. And again, you're substituting something in for m and b. So it should be y equals 3x minus 19 for that. All right, let's try another one. So this time we are going to be given 2 points. So if given 2 points, that are on the graph of the line, right? It's not just like two arbitrary points. Those 2 points have to be on the graph of the line. We are first going to calculate the slope. So we're going to calculate the slope, and then we're going to follow the same steps as we did up here in order to find b. And then we are going to put it all back together into our y equals mx plus b formula. So again, our step on this time we're given the 2 ordered pairs that are on the graph of my line. First, I'm going to have to calculate the slope. So it says, write the equation of the line that passes through the points -4, 3, and 1, -5. So first, in this scenario, we have to find slope. Then we're going to find b. And then we're going to substitute it all back in. Substitute it all back in. And when I say all, I really just mean m and b. So it really should be the word both. English teachers are cringing when I say all for just 2 things. It should be substitute them both back in. All right, so our slope. I'm going to do 3 minus a -5. So I'm going right here, 3 minus a -5, that's change in y, over my change in my x, which is going to be right here. And then I've got -4 minus 1. So then I've got 3, this minus a negative becomes a positive. So I'm going to have 8 over -5. And that's going to be my slope. And then at this point, I would look at your 2 ordered pairs and be thinking about how we're going to substitute 8 -5ths in for my m. And then I'm going to have to put an x here that I'm going to plug in. And then I'm actually just going to go ahead and erase my y right there. And I'm going to have an open space here because, and the reason why I'm putting those open spaces is because I'm either going to plug in this point or this point in for my 2 spaces and thinking about how it's going to be a y and an x here. For the fact that I don't have a great looking fraction, I would like to be a little bit choosy about which ordered pair we're going to plug in. And this one, the second one, looks a little bit easier to me because the x value that I'm going to multiply my fraction by is 1. So that looks pretty easy. So I'm actually going to choose that one. You can pick the other one if you'd like. And I'm going to substitute the 1 in for here and the -5 over here. So then when I'm solving it, what I'm getting is -5 equals -8/5 times 1 is just -8/5 plus b. So then over here, we're going to add the 8/5 to both sides. And again, you're more than welcome to get a common denominator and add them together so we could get a common denominator here of 5, or you can put it in your calculator and you can figure it out that way too. So if we're getting a common denominator, I would multiply this by 5 and this by 5 because my common denominator is going to be a 5 here. And so I'm just going to work with my fraction for a second. So I've got 8/5, which is positive, and then I'm going to be subtracting 25/5. And so if I'm subtracting 25/5, you're thinking about, okay, well, 8 minus 25, or what's 25 minus 8? And we should be getting -17/5. So our b is going to equal -17/5. And then, so for our final answer on this, it's going to be y equals, substitute your m back in. Where's my m? It's -8/5. And then it should be an x minus 17/5. You could also change your y-intercept of b into a mixed number too. So if we were doing this into a mixed number, you're asking yourself, how many times will 5 go into 17? It would be 3 with 2 left over. So another way to write that would be -3 and 2/5 would be another way. So this is like an or here, or which way you can express it. I'm just going to leave it as -17/5 because we're not graphing it. All right, here's our 4th scenario. So if we are given a graph of a line, we're going to identify 2 lattice points. on the line using the y-intercept if possible. So lattice points again is just meaning where does that graph cross a good point on our grid so we can easily identify it. We don't want to estimate where that ordered pair is. We want it to for sure cross a good lattice point. Like this is a lattice point where those two grids intersect, right here. And so in particular, you're looking on your graph of your line where they cross at an intersection of the vertical and horizontal lines. Okay, then we're going to calculate the slope, looking at our rise over our run. Then we're going to determine the y-intercept by looking at the graph if it crosses at a lattice point. Otherwise, we're going to have to calculate it from another lattice point on the graph. And then we substitute that information back into the equation. So in looking at these two lines, I can already tell that the solid red line is going to be a little bit easier because this line crosses our y-intercept right here at a good lattice point. And one second, I'm going to pause the recording because I've got my kids' school calling. One moment, please. Hi, everybody. I'm going to pick up where I was leaving off, or where I left, not where I was leaving, where I left off last time. And that was, I think, what I was leaving off saying was that I can tell that the red line, just by looking at it, is going to be an easier line to determine the slope and the y-intercept on, because this line already crosses, like you can see that it crosses at a lattice point of 0, 4. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the red line on the right-hand side. And so what I would like for you guys to do too on these is identify what is your slope and how you show your work on these. I know most of you could probably just eyeball it and count it, but I want you to draw your little triangle. And so it looks like another lattice point is about right here. There's another one here. So just draw a triangle in between any of those. So I'm just going to arbitrarily choose these so it's away from my blue line. And then over here. And then, or you could do it, like here, that's fine too. But anyway, so it's going to be up 3 and left 1, up 3, left 1, up 3, left 1. And so one thing that we need to check and make sure is that we've got our rise over our run is how we're calculating that. So it's not going to be 1/3, right? Because that would be your run over your rise. So it's going to be 3 over 1. And then you have to look at it to see, is it positive or is it negative? And again, if you're reading it, take your finger across the graph, you hit the line and you're going down, that's going to be negative. So it's going to be -3 over 1, which you can just write out as -3. And then your y-intercept for this one, it's nice because it crosses at a lattice point of 0, 4. So you're going to write it like this, and then you're going to plug it into your y equals mx plus b form. So it's going to be negative 3x plus 4, like that. So now let's do the blue line. I'm going to do this over here on the left-hand side. And right now I can tell that our y-intercept does not cross at a good point, like a good lattice point on our graph, because it's somewhere around 1/3, 1/2, but I can't tell exactly where. So now I have to identify 2 other lattice points in order for me to figure out my y-intercept. So one of the lattice points I'm looking at is -1, 0. It's about right here. And then I'm trying to find another one. It looks like we might have another one over here at -6, -2. I think that looks about right. So I'm just going to call it there. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in of -6, -2, because we're going to need it here in a second. And this one's going to be -1, 0 for our 2 points. All right, so for our slope again is your rise over your run. This slope is going to be positive. Drawing in like our little triangle, it's going to go up to, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So up to, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then for our y-intercept, we're going to have to figure it out. So here we're going to have to say find it. And how we're going to find it is how we did it on that previous page. So you can choose either one of these points, and then our slope that we just figured out, and use our point and use our slope in order to find b. So I am going to choose -1, 0. So I'm going to use 2/5 and -1, 0 to find it. So then I'm going to have, again, you're plugging it into the information of here. So it's going to be 0 equals 2/5 times -1 plus b. This here is going to end up being -2/5 because you're multiplying those two together. And so when you've got that, you've got -2/5 plus b. Now we're ready to add that 2/5 over. And we're going to get 2/5 equals b for that. And then we've got our slope of +2/5 as well. So then that means our equation is going to be y equals 2/5 x plus 2/5. And that's our equation for the dashed line. So let's look at two more examples down here. So we've got these examples. It looks like the blue line, and just kind of eyeballing it, looks like it's going to be the easier one to do this time. It looks like it's crossing right at the origin of 0, 0. And so I want to figure out our slope first, and I am looking, where do we have a good lattice point? I can't tell. Maybe we have one at 4, 1. And the other one looks like at 8, 2. So yes, 4, 1 will work. We've got one here, and we've got another one here. So it looks like if we're going up 1, right, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got our slope of up 1, right 4. And then our y-intercept is going to be at 0, 0. So then we've got y equals 1/4 x, and it would be plus 0. It'd be like this is that 0 right here, but you don't have to put that on there. You can actually just write y equals 1/4 x for that. So we're going to circle that up, or box it up. And then over here on the red one, we are still going to figure out our slope and our y-intercept. Again, the y-intercept looks somewhere in between 0 and 1/2. We can't tell for sure though, so find two lattice points. And I am seeing one like maybe right here, and then maybe right here. So it looks like it's down to right 3, and then let's check another down to right 3, and that looks about right. So we're going to go ahead and say down to right 3, down to right 3. So that means my slope is going to be -2/3. So again, we've got 2 here and then 3, and it's going down and to the right, so it's going to be negative. And then my y-intercept, we're going to have to find it. So we're going to have to find b this time. So pick one of your ordered pairs. So we've got an ordered pair. I'm going to pick maybe this one right here. It's at 2, -1. So we've got 2, -1. And then our slope of -2/3. I'm going to plug that information in. And you could pick a different ordered pair. You see a better ordered pair that looks easier, pick it. Do that one instead. So then plugging in my information into y equals mx plus b, it's going to be -1 equals 2/3 times 2 plus b. And so then I'm going to have -1 equals, and think about how this is going to be like over 1 here. And I'm sorry, this should be a -2/3. I think my negative kind of melded into my equal sign a second ago. So we've got -2/3 times 2, and that's going to be -4/3. And we're going to add that negative, or we're going to add that 4/3 over. And I want you to think about how that's like 1 1/3, right? 4/3 is 1 1/3, and then we're subtracting 1. And so all we're going to have left is 1/3. So our b is going to equal 1/3. And here's our slope. And so it's going to be y equals -2/3 x plus 1/3. And there's our equation for that. All right, so we've got some more examples on the following pages. And where you're going to, so like these are your notes up here for how to do these types of problems. And now we're going to actually try to do those types of problems. And you on this page are going to want to figure out which scenario are we given. Were we given scenario 1. So here's our 4 scenarios. Were we given scenario 1, 2, 3, or 4 for each of these, because that's going to tell you the method you need to use to solve them. So I'm actually going to do a few of these examples with you, and then the rest are going to be for you to finish up. So I am going to do 1, 2, 3, and 5 with you. So 1, 2, 3, and 5. And then I'm going to have, and then I'll do one more on the next page, and then the others are going to be for you. So here we go. We're given a slope of 2/3, and it goes through the point 6,5. So which scenario is that? This is scenario 2. So they give us our slope and they give us a point. We have to find B. So this is scenario 2. To go back and check your notes as you're doing it. So again, we're plugging in y equals mx plus b. We're going to plug in 5 for y. Our m is 2/3. Our x is going to be 6/1 plus b. So then we're going to be reducing here. This is going to be a 1. This is going to be a 2. And we've got 5 equals 4 plus b. Subtract the 4. And we're going to get 1 equals b. So here's our b. Now we're ready to write out our equation. And it's going to be y equals 2/3 x plus 1 for that. I'm going to bump over and do the one, number 5. It says it has an undefined slope. You should stop right there. Undefined slope. Is that going to be x equals some constant, or is it going to be y equals some constant? And remember, which one has an undefined slope? Is it a vertical line? Is it a horizontal line? It's a vertical line. So because it's a vertical line, it's going to be this one right here. So this one's vertical. This is horizontal. So for the fact that it's an undefined slope, automatically we're going to write down x equals c. So there's no y equals mx plus b for this. Our equation is going to be x equals some constant. Well, how do we figure out this constant? Well, if we know that we have a line, it's a vertical line, and it goes through the point -2, 6, and it's a vertical line. Oops, I should be hitting that -2. There we go. So right here at this point, this is -2 for x. 100% of the time, no matter where I put my pen on this line, what's the x value for that line? -2. It's right there. So my equation for this line is going to be x equals -2. And that's your answer for that one. All right, let's try number 2. It contains the 2 points, -1, 4, and 6, -3. This is scenario number 3. By the way, this one, number 5, was also scenario number 2, but it's a little bit different because the fact we have an undefined slope. All right, contains 2 points. So with this one, we're going to have to find m and b, and then go from there. So my slope is going to be, I'm going to do 4 minus a -3. And then I'm going to do -1 minus 6. So that's going to end up being 4 plus 3, which is going to give me 7. And then I'm going to have -1 minus 6 is -7, which is going to give me -1 for my slope. Now pick whichever ordered pair you want. So we're going to have 4 equals, and then my slope of -1 times my x value of my ordered pair, which is this. Plus b. You could have opted to choose the other ordered pair. You could have done 6, -3. That's also fine. -1 times -1 is going to give me a +1, which I'm then going to subtract over. And then I'm going to get 3 equals b for that. So then my equation is going to be y equals -x plus 3. And that's going to be my answer for that one. And then I'm going to try number 3 with you. So number 3, it says it goes through the point 5, -4, and it has a slope of 0. So if it has a slope of 0, are we talking about a vertical line or horizontal line? And I hope you say horizontal. And then that means a horizontal line, if we have a slope of 0, it's going to be y equals some constant, right? So y equals some constant. If I have a horizontal line, with slope of 0. This one says my point is at 5, -4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to put it down here. And if it's a horizontal line, it's going to go through that point like that. 100% of the time, what are my y values on that line? So if I come over here, what is it? It's at -4, right? Right here. If I come over here, what's my y value? It's at -4. So my equation for this is going to be y equals -4 for that. And that's my equation. All right, let me do one more with you. These other ones, by the way, that are left for you, I want you to do those on your own. And then we're going to come here and I'm going to do this top graph with you. And then I want you to do those two on your own, please. So we're going to write an equation for a line in slope-intercept form given the following equation. So pick which one's easiest. You should be able to look at it and tell me which one's going to be the easiest one to do. So which one? It should be the red one. The red one, because you can already tell that the y-intercept crosses at a lattice point. So I'm going to do the red one over here this time. And again, remember, we're putting it in y equals mx plus b form. So we're going to figure out our slope, we're going to figure out our y-intercept, and then we're going to plug that information in. So where's another good crossing point? I am looking, and it looks like we've got one right here. So it looks like we're going up 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4. So up 3, right 4. And it's positive. We're going up and to the right. So it's going to be 3/4. And then, oh, I'm sorry, that goes in for a slope, not our y-intercept. So we're doing 3/4. And then our y-intercept is going to be down here. We're going to write it as an ordered pair. And I can't tell if that's 10 or 9 because of where the 10 is. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. Okay, so that's going to be at -7. Sorry, I'm worried about the percentage on my iPad, but I think it's going to be okay. Here we go. So we're going to write this in, and it's going to be y equals 3/4 x minus 7. All right, so that should be your equation. Now let's try the harder one. So my dashed line of blue is going to come over here. So we have no idea where it's crossing at the y-intercept, so you're going to have to calculate it. It looks like we've got one point right here. Where's another good crossing point? Maybe right here. So we're going to go down 1, right 2, see if that makes sense. Down 1, it doesn't. It doesn't look like it goes down 1, right 2. So I'm going to get rid of that. That's why it's good to check it. Let's find another good crossing point. So if we've got, I'm still going to say this one looks good. Down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2. It looks like there's another really good one right here. So now let's check that. Let's see if that's a consistent slope. So that one would be down 2, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that slope is going to be -2/5. Let's see if it works the other way though too, just to verify. So it'd go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 1, 2. So that one looks consistent and good. So that's the slope we're going to go with. All right, so finding our y-intercept. So y-intercept, I am going to pick, this point looks pretty easy. I'm going to pick that point. So we've got it at 1, -1, and we're going to plug that in. So I've got, again, you're plugging into y equals mx plus b. And we have -1 equals -2/5 times our +1, which is right here, plus our b. So now we've got -1 equals -2/5 plus b. I'm going to add the 2/5 over. And you can either get a common denominator and you could say, well, this is going to be like 5/5 negative plus a 2/5, which is going to give you a -3/5. Or you can just say, what's -1 plus 2/5? And it's going to be -3/5 left over. It's going to give you your b. All right, so now we're ready to write your equation. And the final equation is going to be y equals -2/5 x minus 3/5. And that's your final answer. All right, so then for these two down here, I'm gonna have you guys try those on your own, and you should identify which one's the easy one first. Do the easy one first, then do the harder one. Okay, that's it for this video. So thanks for tuning in.